even I'm getting a little congested. Just a tad bit. Not like
You're getting what?
Congested.
Oh, right, you mean with your sinuses.
Yes. It's okay, I intend to make burritos later on.
Oh.
I'm
so
getting
jealous.
a little congested. I need to go to the bathroom in about an hour and a half.
I said later on, so not even an hour and a half. That's going to be like 5 hours from now.
SVD's got like a schedule of like when he goes for a shit.
Well, no, because like, we're going to be chatting for like 2 hours, and then probably an hour afterwards I'll make it, and then probably an hour after that I'll have fucking eaten it.
But you mean like the spices are going to open up your sinuses, right?
I've got like jalapenos, and I'm going to put cayenne pepper in there.
Do you guys have vapor rub over there?
Oh, yeah, the stuff that you rub on your chest to, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I put it under my nose to open my sinuses. It says don't put, basically it says don't put it in your body, so like don't put it in your nose or in your ears or anything like that. But if you rub it on just below, on your top
essentially
lip.
your chest.
Yeah, well I rub it on my top lip and it fucking opens up my sinuses. Like, if my sinuses are locked closed, I just rub it there and it opens them up, and it's so nice, especially when you have a cold and you can't breathe properly. You just hit some vapor rub. Also, apparently it's really bad for your eyes and it can melt the top layers. The vapors can melt the like layers of your eyes off.
You're not really selling the idea of using this.
On your chest, it's fantastic. On your back of your neck, it's fantastic. And a small amount under your nose is fantastic.
Jalapenos are just sounding better and better.
SVD's gonna be like balancing some jalapenos on his upper lip instead.
No, I'll be just taking a bite out of a raw jalapeno.
I do love jalapenos.
I prefer vapor rub because it's not gonna make my mouth burn for an hour.
Well, it depends, because after I find that my anytime after I take my Ozempic dose, you know, your taste, of course, it feels very, very much like died down, I guess, right? Not as sensitive, I should say. So the stuff that usually tastes good doesn't really taste good, and the stuff that tastes bad actually tastes worse. And I find that
I haven't had that.
I don't ask how that works, all right? But I find that spicy foods still manage to kind of break through the whatever the fuck I feel when with essentially Ozempic.
Yeah, I get ya. I do kind of the same thing. Like burritos, and there's another food that I get. Oh, it's nachos with jalapeno toppers on.
For some reason, yeah, I don't get that.
Well, you're just unique. You're weird.
My brain broke for a minute there. I was literally thinking exactly about what you were saying, and then my brain was just like, you don't need this information, and just dumped it, and I don't know why.
Should I just start the opening so that you can not think for a short while?
If you want.
Thanks. Okay, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 4 of the Steam Sentinels I can't speak already. Steam Sentinels podcast, episode 4. Creativity Locked. I'm your host Mellow Online, and I am joined by SirViolentDeath. Hello, SirViolentDeath. How are you today?
Well, it's nice to actually be introduced like second instead of third.
Well, you threw a hissy fit last week, so I felt like I've kind of got to appease him now.
Not much of a hit, whatever.
He was seething on that for the whole week.
I was
like,
not
Mellow better
seething.
fucking.
I was simmering, you know.
Yeah.
Like a good, like, I don't know, soup.
Has it put you in a good mood that I've introduced you second?
That's a little
first.
Nice.
You introduced him
well,
first.
Well, no, I introduced me first. I have to come first because I'm speaking.
Yeah, you don't count because
your girlfriend too. No, I'm kidding.
I love this intro already. It's so good. I was gonna say when you called his name out first, because I rewatched the intro to the episode yesterday. I was like, keep trying to keep him happy this week.
If he quits, I'm gonna struggle filling the hole that he would leave. How are you, SVD?
I'm doing okay. Been playing Warframe and uh, the Idleon RPG stuff, and a little bit of Company of Heroes, the first one. Um, so
Me and Ratchet in your Idleon playthrough.
yes, you are Marshmallow One, and,
Yay.
Non-consensually.
and Ratchet is Mr. Game Dev.
Because that's his whole personality.
Yeah. I have depth to my character. I don't just make games.
He's not just a game dev; he's Mr. Game Dev.
That's the whole reason I brought you on, because you represented a game developer outreach rather than consumer or analyst or anything like that.
And what's more suitable to a game dev than the class of being a mage? Because the shit you do is magic.
Don't
Yeah,
mention
true.
to him about being a wizard.
It was specifically a fat wizard. I don't know why I was like, why did I have moobs in that photo? That's all. It was
For
nice.
context,
Yeah.
for context for people listening, we have a really, really cool Discord user that does artwork, fan art, or fan graphics occasionally, and puts us in like different settings, like in Doom, South Park, and stuff like that. But they did like an RPG game inspired piece of artwork of me, Ratchet, and it was Ocular as well, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think there's a few of us.
Yeah. And I can't remember. I got drawn as this like soldier warrior with a sword, and Ocular had like his. I don't even know what his logo is. It's like some germ bacteria with
Well,
legs.
I
or
made you a
something
warrior
like that.
in the RPG game just by coincidence.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. And then Ratchet got made as this like fat wizard.
Wearing like a what was that thing Homer wore in The Simpsons? A muumuu. I have like a muumuu robe on as well. I was like, what the fuck?
It's
Yeah,
an
okay.
accurate 1-to-1 representation of you.
I'm not that fat. Come on. I literally had to dip out early the other week to go to the gym. Come on, get out of here.
Yeah,
Bull-
yeah, but this fan work that was done before you started going to the gym.
No,
As
it
well,
wasn't.
that was like
Fair, Ratchet
what,
is
9
also
months
tall.
ago.
I've been
So-
going to the gym since 2021.
Oh, have you? Oh, I'm not going to make any more comments. I'm joined by Ratchet as well. Ratchet, how are you?
I don't know. What the fuck just happened? I'm fine. I'm fine. I just got kicked down memory lane because there's been a few cases where we've had people draw fan art of us. I appreciate the fan art. Draw me as a fat wizard. I don't really care that much. It's very funny. It's always funny when someone does that.
Well, it's proof that someone, accounts for you, right?
There was a cooler one. I remember. They made like this Doom-inspired FPS, and you were actually a Terminator-esque boss fight at the end. And I'm like, oh, you'd much prefer that than being a fat wizard.
I haven't seen that one. You need to link that to me.
It didn't get released because the user was having
Aw.
problems. It was like the file kept on getting flagged as a virus for some reason whenever they tried to upload it somewhere. And they weren't sure why, but they put a gameplay video in the Discord server of them going through like a couple of minutes of the game. It looked really cool, and I really want like it. They were playing as me, and I was throwing pizzas around at enemies because of that whole Pizzagate thing in the Discord server. Which is a story for another time because that'll take ages to explain. Ratchet, what have you been playing this week?
I have been playing weirdly Star Citizen.
Yeah, I saw on Discord, and I was like, wait, what?
It's way more complete than it was. So I bought it in 2014, early 2014, and very recently I was playing Elite Dangerous, and I was like, I want to get out and walk around. What's Star Citizen up to these days? I'm like, oh shit, it's nearly a complete game. Like, I've just been, like, figuring out how to play it. I've been in a lot of dogfights, landing on planets, doing cargo runs and stuff. It's kind of, you gotta Google everything, which sucks, but I also remember back 10 years ago I had to Google everything with with Elite Dangerous as well, so it's kind of cool, because I just love the ability. Like, I went and actually paid real money to get a better ship, because I was like, the ship I have is fine, but it was the, like, Aura, or Aurora, or whatever it was, the really basic one you got 10 years ago for $45. But yeah, it's weirdly so much fun now. Like, they pretty much nailed exactly what they said they were going to do. and I've been having so much fun just flying around planets and like showing it off to my friends and being like, buy it, join me. We can start a company, we can ship stuff, we can go onto planets and kill other players and steal their ships.
Makes it sound like you're wanting them to join a cult.
It basically is. It's like, this is a simulator game. This is a space simulator game. You need to, once you join me, we need to lock in, because we're going to fuck some shit up.
Is it better than No Man's Sky?
It's not really comparable to No Man's Sky, because No Man's Sky is more arcadey. I love No Man's Sky as well, but No Man's Sky is a lot more arcadey. It's kind of built around just kind of wandering from planet to planet, picking up stuff, selling it. Whereas Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen are both like heavily simulators. So like really focused on making sure you're aligned with the correct companies and you're traveling from... because like most of the planets in the game have their own like city that you travel to, which is really cool because the cities are massive and you go to explore them, but it's more like you've actually got to like go onto these planets and go and interact with, you know, NPCs and basically form alliances with all these different planets and stuff, and do trading for them. And like as you gain their trust more, you can do more expensive trading missions and buy, because you can buy all the ships in the game. You don't have to spend real money, which is what I'm trying to do. Yeah, it's like No Man's Sky cranked up to 100.
Yeah, I've played No Man's Sky, and everyone I spoke to about Star Citizen was saying that that's probably the most comparable game that's out there on the market to it. And I like No Man's Sky, but I can never really play it for like long bursts of time because I just get really bored with it quite quick.
Yeah, you'd get bored at Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous then. But yeah, they're more like it's I don't really know how to compare. It's like the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas trucking missions versus Euro Truck Sim. So it's like, okay, well, but in San Andreas, you're driving trucks around, you're dropping them off, but also you can get out and go around and shoot shit and stuff like that. Whereas with Euro Truck Sim, you got to go from A to B, and it's a big focus on doing the job.
I get, yeah. So one's fun and one's not is basically what you're saying.
Kind of. The difference is, I'm not selling it well, but the difference is with Star Citizen is if you're traveling over a planet, you see like a group of NPC raiders or something. Like I saw a ship just landed at a base somewhere, and so I went and landed next to it to see what was up, opened it, and kind of had a bit of a wander through it, and then had a bit of a wander through the town. I got back in my ship, and people started shooting at me. So it's like, it leans into a lot of natural discovery. It's really kind of cool in that regard.
I do like the idea of natural discovery, because I mean, when I was talking about the Fallout 3 playthrough that I'd started, one playthrough attempt that I made, but I just got more frustrated with it, was I didn't fast travel to anywhere to allow me to actually explore the world a bit more and feel like, oh, I've gone from one side of the map, now I can't fast travel back to the other side so I can get to this destination quicker. I've got to walk. And then I found myself taking like more unique routes than I wouldn't have if I was fast traveling. And even with Skyrim, I made it a challenge one time to not open a map. I just had to use, and I got a mod that like disabled the UI at the top, which is like your compass. I had to just literally go around the world and use the in-game signposts. That was fun. That was like an extra level of immersion as well. So no, I think there's definitely ways that you can do that kind of world building quite well. I've played 3 different things this week, so I'll try and keep it short for each one. Have either of you heard of Swords and Sandals?
No.
It was a Flash game series from the mid-2000s.
I do. You've just thrown so many memories back into my head of being a kid.
Yeah, I used to play them on, I think it was on Facebook. It had its own website, but I think it also had some Facebook integration. But I bought a while ago the Swords and Sandals Classic Collection, got released onto Steam. And I think it was like the first 5 games in the series got packaged together. And I've been playing through. I finally beat Swords and Sandals 1. So for Swords and Sandals, it's basically this turn-based... kind of, it's not an RPG, but it's got RPG elements to it, where you play as a gladiator and you have to buy weapons, buy armor, and you go through a series of fights so that you get to fight the arena champion, and you fight battles, you level up, you put your skills into skill sets. It's very simple and it's got a very repetitive gameplay loop, but it is fun. But the RNG is ridiculous in it. You're so reliant on luck and just making sure your attacks hit, that they don't get blocked and all that sort of shit. But it's been fun. I've enjoyed revisiting it, and I tried. There's a couple of remakes that get packaged into it. So the first two games got a Redux, which is like new art style, and it's not as nostalgic, obviously, but it does look nicer. They've like completely hand-drawn artwork as opposed to the flash animation stuff, which is really neat. I think, Ratchet, if you enjoyed the original games, I do recommend you check out the Classic Collection and a couple of the Reduxes that are on Steam as well. I think it's not too pricey. I think it'll be like maybe $15 for the 6-game package. I've also been playing an indie game called Series Maker Tycoon, which is basically Game Dev Tycoon, but you're making TV series. And I really wanted to like it, but it is just so bare bones, and it's just Game Dev Tycoon, but worse. There's not as much for you to focus on. It is pretty much, from what I've played, I played about half an hour, 45 minutes of it, and it is just a repetitive gameplay loop of you make a series, and unlike with Game Dev Tycoon, where you've got like the 3 cards that come up, and you've got to adjust how much of a focus you've got, you get 1 card. So you can master them very, very quickly. It's not like loads of trial and error and you experiment with what works. It's just you figure it out in the first 10 minutes, and then you're just set and you're making good series left, right and centre. And there's research, but the research, from what I've found, only lets you research new topics and genres to make. And again, it's just a very repetitive and boring gameplay loop, and it doesn't have the sense of progression. And I guess satisfaction as well that Game Dev Tycoon had. So I was really underwhelmed by that. So I've not really picked it up since, because it was just really boring. And last thing I'll touch on, I've been revisiting Mass Effect. I've returned to Mass Effect. I've been playing the remake, the remastered collection.
The Legendary
I forget
edition?
what it's actually called. The Legendary Edition, that's it.
It's got
been playing
such
through the
good
Legendary
music.
Edition.
Whoever they have as like composers at BioWare, really the composers at BioWare since like the dawn of their time, and especially like around KOTOR 1, whoever's been doing their music stuff has been just phenomenal. The soundtracks, at least I don't know anything about like the past, like the mid 2010s to now. But I know that everything before then, people were always, including me, because I've played like Mass Effect 1, 2. You had to play 3. Um, the soundtracks for all of those games were just phenomenal.
It was only on this playthrough that I've been going through, I only realised how good the soundtrack was. Like, even the main menu theme, I could sit and listen to that for ages. When you're in the Citadel,
I love Mass Effect's main menu theme. It's perfect.
It's fantastic. I'm happy playing through it just for the soundtrack alone, to be fair. But yeah, I don't have too much to say because I've only just started playing it. I've only gotten back to the Citadel in Mass Effect 1. So I might have more to report on next week. But I've never played 2 or 3. I've only ever played 1.
So did you
and
just
I've heard
complete,
1
I guess,
is...
the tutorial section, I take it?
I've completed the Eden Prime section, and I've started to go through the Citadel section where you're going to speak to a broker. But I've progressed. The furthest I've ever progressed was after you take control of the Normandy, and you've got these like 3 missions that you can choose which one you want to progress on. And I've completed all 3 separately, but I've never gotten to the point where I've had all 3 completed at once. I usually end up getting sidetracked after I've completed like a couple of them. So I am actually keen to see how it progresses, and I'm actually going to see if I've got the patience this time to see it through to the end, and then hopefully play the sequels as well.
There's a lot of good side missions in all these other galaxies. The only thing that sucks is trying to keep track of where you've like been. Like I do kind of wish that that's like, okay, I've done all the activities on this system and as well as this galaxy and that kind of stuff. Because otherwise, you're like, oh, and then you go to the planet, you're like, wait, I've already done the quest here.
One thing that I find really annoying with, because you're right, there are a load of great side missions, and that's part of the reason. It's partly great, but partly really annoying, because then I just get so sidetracked from the main mission. But one thing that annoys me with some of the side quests in Mass Effect is some of them are activated by, like, reading terminals in the Citadel, and I usually just skip over them, because I'm like, oh, fuck it, I don't really need to know the full backstory. But I'm like, oh no, if I'm going to take the game seriously, I'll read through the entries. And I'm reading through them, and it's like, why does Shepard feel the onus of tackling this when he's got so many more things to look at? Like, I'll read the entries, and it's like, why do you think this is a side quest? Why is this something that you think you need to pursue? It's like someone else's email, and it's like, oh, we've got a weapons cache, and it's going to be on this planet. I don't think that's specifically what it was, but just for an allegory. And he's like, oh, this is something we need to see to. It's like, I think the quests themselves are great, but I think there's better ways to introduce them rather than reading through somebody else's computer terminal that's really none of your business. And you've got plenty of other things to focus on.
So because you're on the Citadel, you'll find there's some quests there that will lead you to other places. There's at least one quest I know of where you either do it through an email on the Citadel, or you talk to someone on the Citadel. Like, there's two ways to to be given that quest at least. The other thing too that you'll find that once you actually start going to these galaxies is when you enter into a new system, you'll get automatically you'll have like the dispatch dude from the Alliance be like, "Hey Shepard, we need you to look into this, right?" And that'll be mostly your introduction to some of these side quests. Other times it's when you enter into a system really, and let's say you're not given any side quests that's immediate. Essentially it becomes like a go and find the one side quest that's going to be located somewhere, and it's usually going to be on a ship or planet that you can actually board.
But see, the thing is, so when the transmission comes through when you enter in a new galaxy, that makes sense to me, because that makes it his business. It's when he's just nebbing into somebody else's computer in the end, it has absolutely nothing to do with him. It's like, I need to do this.
Suspend your disbelief, damn it.
It's just, I don't know why this galaxy savior is making everything his fucking business. Like, he doesn't need to give a shit about some random thing he read in a terminal in the embassies or some shit. Like, he's got plenty on his plate. He's tracking down a rogue Spectre, for fuck's sake. But no, I'll give a bit more of an update next week if I make any more progress. But I will now introduce our dear listeners to what we're going to be talking about today. We've got a few topics. We're going to go into our comment comeback section shortly, where we pick out a comment from the previous week and we have a quick discussion about it. Anything that you've left in YouTube comments, Steam comments, Discord server, anything that we're on. We're then going to have a talk about the death of extras in the AAA's creative industry that Ratchet's going to lead a conversation on, and we're going to cap the episode off with a discussion about the most recent Sentinels of the Storm article that was kindly written by SirViolentDeath this week, talking about the state of Steam after Greenlight and what has changed since Steam Direct's introduction and the subsequent ripple effects that those have had both on bad actors and the broader Steam community. But first, let us talk about our comment comeback section. So we have a comment here that I am going to pull up on my phone, because again, I thought I pulled it up now, but I just totally forgot to do it, and I did copy the text over, but I want to give a shout out to who made the comment. This is a comment from Valus. And Valus left the comment on our Steam announcement of the last podcast episode in response to some of our conversation talking about AI generative disclosure. Valus put, quote, "Personally, I want Steam to make it so developers have to state if their game requires an internet connection to play all modes long before I care if they used AI," end quote. Thank you, Valus, for that comment. So clearly, it's somewhat relevant, somewhat not. Valus is basically saying that while he doesn't particularly have too much of a care about AI generative disclosure, but he cares more about an online requirement disclosure being mandated for store pages. there's been a long time conversation about always online functionality, whether that be through always online DRM or online game modes with the is it the Stop Killing Games movement that Accursed Farms was running?
Yes.
Yes, the SKG. Totally forgot the name for a second there. It's always been a hot topic, and it's always been something that's been discussed for a good long while, and I think that comment kind of reaches into those areas. There is disclosures on Steam store pages for that, but obviously it doesn't have the prevalence as, say, an AI generative disclosure. It's usually in like a sidebar area underneath like an end user license agreement that those sorts of things do get disclosed. But I'm curious to hear what you both think. I mean, I guess we'll dip into what Valis was talking about on if they personally feel that the declaration of a connection requirement is maybe more important for them than a declaration of AI use. What do you both think? What's probably more important for you when you go and buy a game? Would you prefer to know what, if any of the game has been made with AI, or would you rather know if there's a consistency for an online connection required?
Online connection first. I want to know that first and foremost before knowing if it has AI, because the AI stuff might be something that you can overlook. The online connection stuff, less so.
Ratchet?
I don't really care about online. I can see on the Steam store page it has online. Like, I'm looking at Mortal Kombat 1 at the moment because it popped up. It's got online PvP. And it will tell me if it's got, like, Denuvo and stuff. And if I want to know if it's always online, I would just go and Google that. I don't think it needs to be a requirement.
Would it be more convenient for you if it was a declaration on the store page?
No, because it's not going to change my thought on buying it or not. Like, I still would have bought...
Well, no, it's not really a case of if it would sway your buying decision, but if you did want to know, would it not be more convenient that it's in the place that you're looking at the game on?
I mean, that's the whole point of... I'd argue that's the whole point of having those things accessible on the Steam store page, is to sway your decision if you don't want a multiplayer game. Yeah. It's
where
like
it says
stuff like...
requirement of a broadband connection or whatever.
I think it has... I mean, that exists in the system requirements, but... That's like
always take
vague
it that
as
if
hell.
It's got that there, that it requires an always online thing.
Possibly. The only times I've ever seen it pop up is when it's got like Denuvo or DRM, when it's always got an online DRM embedded into the game. But I'm also thinking of maybe cases like, for lack of a better thought, the Crew. I'm not sure if the Crew had always online DRM in it, but if it didn't, but you always needed an online connection to access its game modes, for example, I don't think that there's anything on the store page that requires for that declaration. I think as long as it doesn't have an always online DRM to it, then it's okay. It'll be put in the features, so it'll say there's online PvP, there's massively multiplayer. It'll probably show that there's no single player mode as well. But is that enough, or do you think that... I think what Valis is maybe stating at is maybe an extra form of disclosure that needs to be more prevalent should be put on?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm of two minds here where I'm like, yeah, okay, it makes sense for some people, but I personally don't really care about always online. If it's just like, oh, it requires a connection to a server, it's like, well, I bought the game, I can always refund it. But yeah, I was looking at some games. You can see always online games usually won't have the single player tag on them, but also there are single player games that require an internet connection to play, because that is their form of DRM. Weirdly, like Battlefield 6 is a good one where it requires you to join the online queue to play single player. It's like, why the fuck am I queuing for multiplayer when I want to play? Yeah, so to get into the game, you have to... It's because it does what Call of Duty does as well, defaults to multiplayer, and then you have to go to single player for the multiplayer menu. You can't just go, I want to play single player, and that was the biggest complaint a lot of people had, is like, I just want to play the campaign, I'm stuck at like 2,500,000th in this queue, I don't want to play the multiplayer, I don't give a fuck about the multiplayer at the moment, I want to play the campaign. And EA were just like, you gotta wait.
Why change the way that their menus used to be? Where like when you would open up the game, you'd have the main menu, right, and it would have options, but then you'd have single player, and then you'd have multiplayer. If you wanted to play multiplayer, you'd click on that one. Then it would bring you to the matchmaking section to pick what game modes you wanted.
Because um, essentially UI is probably one of the easier changes. It needs to change per game, so it's not really the flow of UI can change much more easily than something like engine level. Like
Do you
a good
agree that it
example being
doesn't
like
necessarily
Starfield's
need
loading.
to be reinvented all the time, or like when something again like that whole basic menu setup when you start a game, and then it again single player, multiplayer options, credits, whatever. Like, is that something that necessarily always needs to be reinvented?
I mean, per game, I'd like a different UI. I'm getting a bit sick of playing Call of Duty and just having the same UI with people walking down the center of a invisible road. It's really weird, and it was cool for 1 or 2 games, but this is just more a me thing than anything, right? It's not. It's people don't really give a shit. But yeah, it's weird having single player, which. Okay, it's weird, but it makes sense, right? You think about it from our point of view of like playing the game, it's like, why? I just want to play the single player. Then you think about it from EA's point of view of like, yeah, but this is our way to verify that you own the game. It's like, okay, don't you have like Denuvo or something in here? It's like, no, we
I
just
feel like it's
check
more
that you own the game
trying
on
to
Steam.
throw you into multiplayer and hoping that you'll purchase stuff. Or at least that's going to be what like the takeaway of it, I think, from a lot of people.
It doesn't really have purchases.
Not so do they not have like the shortcut stuff out for various classes?
No. No, they
I'm
don't. They're
kind of
not adding the shortcut stuff. They're adding. There's going to be like weapon skins and stuff for season passes, but they don't have any of that in at the moment. So it's just pushing you into multiplayer because I would argue heavily because that's the thing that people want to play the most in Battlefield. When you think about Battlefield as a game, it started off as a multiplayer. So yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's the same with Call of Duty as well.
yeah. Well, the difference with COD is it doesn't queue you to join servers. It does have issues where if you try and play the game and the servers aren't available, it'll kick you out of multiplayer and single player. Like, a really, really good example is I was playing Modern Warfare 3's campaign back when it first came out. If Steam would sign me out, it would kick me out of Call of Duty entirely. The app would say, like, not logged into Steam, can't verify ownership, and just kick me out of everything in Call of Duty. It's like, what the fuck? I'm in single player and I had to launch this game through Steam. Why are you doing constant Steam verification? Like, who's going to like swap accounts at runtime? Haha,
Listen,
gotcha. I'm able to
needs
play it on my
always
friend's computer.
phone home. All right.
Just to get kind of back onto the disclosure element of it, I guess looking at the AI disclosure is more about ethics and transparency, whereas the online functionality is more about playability and also preservation as well. Because obviously when the online servers for a game that go down for a multiplayer game, then that's it. It's just rendered unplayable, at least for the time being. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the SKG when that hits lawmakers. But it's an interesting one. I think it's interesting that the AI debate has come out on top with something like that because it's quite new and it's only taken AI to get that kind of level of disclosure. It's come about quite quick and people have been complaining about always online functionality and digital rights management and all this stuff for years, probably over a decade now. And there is obviously things that you can read into and insinuate, like, oh, there's no mention of single player, so we'll just assume it is a full multiplayer game that requires an internet connection the whole time. And there is mentions and disclosures about DRM. I did notice recently, so I've got an enhanced Steam extension in my browser, and what they do is something that I believe, have criticised Steam for doing is they don't think that their DRM disclosures are clear enough because, like I said, it just gets sidelined into a text that's underneath the end user license agreement. So what they do is they do a DRM check, and when you are on a store page, if something has de nouveau, for example, it'll be in a red box above the purchase button. To make it like very, very abundantly clear that there's DRM included in it. But yeah, I get what you're saying as well, Ratchet, where it's like you obviously don't care, and I know that there'll be lots of people that some will take that information and think, yeah, I don't really care too much about it, and others will think, oh no, this is something I really need. But then again, the same thing goes for the AI debate, like you were saying there, SVD, where you personally, it might inform you, but it wouldn't stop you from playing a game if it had AI. It depends on how much it's used. And I think we mentioned last week on if it's being used as a crutch, or if it's being used to complement the game in some unique way. So yeah, I personally think like if it's on the store page, then the people that are interested in that sort of thing will see it. But then I can also see, I think Steam made an argument about something either related or unrelated, where they also made the counterpoint to an argument like that, saying, yeah, but the people that do care about that information will seek it out as well, like what you were saying, Ratch, about you going on Google and looking for that information. So, I don't know, I think there's a convenience element for it, to have it on the store page and have it as an appropriate disclosure in a similar way that the AI disclosure is on. And that, again, might even be something that's looked into in the Stop Killing Games legislation, however it progresses in the different countries and the different nations that's looking into it. Next topic, thank you very much again, Valis, sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Valis or Valis, for sending that comment. So, next topic. Ratchet, I'm happy for you to take the reins on this one. This is the death of extras in the AAA sphere. So, I mean, I'll do a quick segue. Once upon a time, games would ship with things such as secret missions, some Easter eggs, hidden levels, but now that kind of content is slowly vanishing from a lot more of the modern day games. And Ratchet, this was a topic that you proposed we talk about last week, so I'm happy for you to take the reins on this.
Yeah, I think my question was very specifically, why the fuck is the AAA game sphere so restrictive on extra content these days? Like Nacht, Untoten from World at War and Mile High Club from Modern Warfare. And just like even like little Easter egg things in Halo. A really good example. I'm a fan of what they do, but I'm not a fan of their speculation, is Boundary Break. They're a really good example.
I rate Boundary Break.
I just don't like when they see a cube out of nowhere and they're like, this is probably a developer cube. And it's like, no, it's just a piece of floating geometry that someone left in a level. I can promise you that cube is not used for anything. It's like there's like a bit of a triangle under a level in GTA 3 is a really good example. And he's like, I asked, there's one of the developers on GTA 3 through to, I think it was 4, right at the beginning of 4 he left. I can't remember his name. I wish I could, because he does a lot of content on GTA and talking about optimizations and stuff. It's like Ove or something like that. I apologize if I screwed up his name.
That's Ratchet not getting a job at Rockstar.
Well, he doesn't work at Rockstar anymore, so he hasn't for like 15 years. Longer actually, 2007. But he asked him about floating geo in, like floating triangles essentially in GTA 3, and he replied and he was like, it's probably just something one of the artists left in. Like, it's not anything. Like, don't worry about it. It's just a triangle. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that part of it, because it's very weird to speculate on things where it's like, you ask any developer and the developer's just going to be like, yeah, it's just like a piece of floating something that someone left in. But my point is, games, like now working at a smaller indie team, like, I mean, I kind of run it with 2 other people, so it's not as if I'm just like a developer there, but working in a smaller team, I've noticed that we're like just putting shit in the level and just like thinking about like, oh cool, this would be a really cool idea for a mini game we could put in, and I've just like been writing all this down because it's like, these are just things I could put in the game later, like right before we ship, just cool little things that, like, if you go and do an Easter egg, then you get teleported to this new area where you get to do this. Like, a really good example is, I think it's basketball in San Andreas. You can play basketball, and no one really knew you could play basketball. I can't remember if that was a cut feature or not. I've watched a lot of cut feature videos, but a lot of stuff like that is disappearing from, like, AAA games. I think just bigger games in general have become so kind of manufactured in how they're developed. There's such a flow. There's, like, you know, when you're working on something, you go from A to Z. It goes through all the people it needs to go through. It goes through all the checks it needs to go to. All of these things happen, and it's very kind of methodical and like designed in such a way that you kind of I can't see any creative, kind of just creativity in general in, like, the Battlefield campaign and the Call of Duty campaigns now, whereas in, like, World at War and stuff like that, you'd see COD Zombies and be like, this is really cool, you know, this is kind of just them screwing around. Versus now, it's like, oh, there's not, like, a Mile High Club mission. There's not a, you know, zombies. There's not those weird little areas in Halo you can go, or, like, you know, you sneak up to a grunt and they're, like, yelling about something. Like, a really good example is, as much of a shit show as Halo Infinite was, there's a bunch of, like, clear places where people were just kind of doing their own thing. So there's an area where you can sneak up on a little grunt and he's just, like, talking. Just, like, talking about shit. But kind of where this leads me is...
That was in a lot of the Halo games. Like,
yeah.
In especially, like, the original trilogy of Halo games, there was always a grunt in, like, about essentially on the last missions that you could find, that was just, it was like a cowardly, just, like, rambling, like, grunt. I forget what, like, the name that the community gave it, but it was very, like, neat little, like, Easter egg thing to enjoy.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So this is what I'm getting at. This is what I'd like to hear from, This is what I'd like both of your kind of thoughts on. Is partly is the AAA sphere becoming so kind of what's it called? Kind of like
a mill?
Yeah. And then I'm trying to remember the word for it. I'll probably remember the word later, but essentially it's becoming just such this sterile environment of just, like, everything has to be done this way. We can't have extra bits added to it because that means more money.
Bureaucracy
and then also
and red tape.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you guys think on how, like, bigger game development has progressed in that regard? Like, do you both prefer, like, the content where it's clear that, like, someone just got bored one day and was just like, I'm gonna add this thing? Or do you prefer the, like, clearly cut and laid out campaign? And then my other question is, I don't know, I kind of also want to know what you guys, what your favorite kind of those moments are, like, stuff like that where you're just like, oh cool, a little Easter egg, and it kind of stuck with you, or like, oh, a little extra level that someone added for a shit post.
I prefer how games used to be, not to sound too old. Yeah, I think part of the problem, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ratchet, but because studios and game companies are becoming bigger, and it's not really tightly knitted teams like they used to be, that, like, were closely working together, like a team of 30 or something. Now you've got, like, teams of, like, hundreds working on a game together. I think that might play a little bit into why maybe some things like that just don't happen, because there's just so many moving parts and you don't really get that personable trait to things anymore. One Easter egg that stands out to me, for example, is, have either of you played the Futurama licensed game
Yes.
on PlayStation? I think you know which one I'm going to talk about.
The one that took him so long to find.
Like 15 years to find. Yeah, there's an Easter egg in the first tutorial level in Futurama's video game that took like 15 years to find. It was discovered, I think it might have even been like Boundary Break or another YouTube channel similar, that discovered it even existed, because they just took a free cam and they found this Easter egg just floating just slightly out of the bounds of the game. But they then found code that showed, oh, this can actually be unlocked and viewable through in-game means. But what caught me was, I think they tried loads of different things for like months. And they found out the routine that you had to do was you had to have like, I'm going to butcher the sequence, but you had to have exactly $3. You had to break a TV in the living room. You had to jump on 2 panels in a flooded cellar. Had to pick up like specifically one item, but you needed to make sure you didn't pick up the second of the same item that was in the same room, not too close to it. And then you had to knock on a wall 3 times, and then you had to go up the corridor, and then a wall would like drop down, and you would find this massive Easter egg just surface with like this space neon background to it. It's stuff like that where it's like, that is so pointless and has so many arduous steps, but it's amazing. I love this. This is incredible. The fact that someone took time out of their day to program this in, totally with no purpose other than to like be a massive time waster. I absolutely love things like that. There was another one in The Simpsons Hit and Run that just got found recently, like 1 or 2 years ago, where in the final level where Springfield's like taken over by zombies, and you're doing those like really arduous final 3 missions where it's like you go to the power plant, you get some nuclear plutonium, and then you have to go and drive to the other side of the map to get to the spaceship to then load the car up to explode it. They'd found, some Easter egg hunters had found that on one of those missions where if you perfectly time a moment where when you pick up the plutonium with your car, Homer does like this little arm, he does like a fist bump to the sky. But if you perfectly time it where if you bring up the pause menu as he like fist bumps the air and cancel the mission out, his animation syncs up with the music. So then he starts fist bumping to the music that's playing in the background of the game. It's and again, it took ages to find just because it's such a micro period of time where you can only activate it. But it's nice little touches. It's nice little touches like those that I appreciate.
I'll list off a few. One that I think both of you will know, if not Ratchet will know. The ray gun from World at War, and
Yes.
I think it's one of the earlier missions. You had to like
Second
go
one.
through like I think some of the craters on one of the beaches.
Some puddles, I think.
Yeah, and puddles. Yep. And there's one. Gears of War 3. One of the first missions. It might be the first or second. First mission I think is a dream sequence. Second mission though is you're on this giant ship, and like the locusts, like the lambent. The lambent. Kind of start to invade, and what you can do is there's these 4 pipes, in like the gardening section of the ship. And what you can do is you can run up to each one, and your character will shout hello, and you can hear the echo. And the thing is, if you shoot them in a particular order, a golden chicken will pop out, and if you shoot it, it then turns into a giant killer chicken. It's dumb, but I love that it's in there, right? Because like Gears of War is a real gritty thing, and then when you have something silly like that, I mean, come on.
You've just made me think of another one, sorry, just as when you were mentioning about that Gears of War Easter egg. The first ever Easter egg that I think no, maybe not the first ever one I was made aware of, but the first one that did like catch my eye was one in Mirror's Edge, where there's a mission where you have to like snipe a car as it's driving. But then if you snipe the wheel off the car, and then there's like a building with like a business design of like a 5 dotted dice opposite the city. If you shoot the car and then you shoot the center circle on that business, a giant rat will just come and run down the road for no reason, and it again serves no purpose. You can't interact with it. It's purely visual, but it's so funny that it's there. I think that's probably how you felt when you found the The giant killer chicken.
There is one other good one. This comes from the classic Red Alert title. I did not know about this until years after the fact. So there is a secret giant ant campaign in the original Red Alert game. And the way to get to this is you had to hold down like the shift key and click on like the speaker button. I guess that was in the main menu. And it was this whole like little like I think a few missions of where like it's after the Allies defeat the Soviets and they have to deal with giant ants that like came out of the center of the earth. They even had like FMV like cutscenes for it too. Like it's dumb, but it's like dumb fun kind of like it's campy. It's and it's very much kind of like a callback to like the really old like monster movies. It came from Mars. It was Hitler's brain, type of stuff. A lot of that stuff to me speaks it's love from the developers. It's silliness that is, but it's silliness that incorporates their skills into the game, and it showcases what I feel like is a human side of the developers. In which case, like when the player plays the game, whatever the genre or mood of the game is, when you do come across those sections, that is usually kind of fun or memey or kind of like this offshoot thing. It's a good helpful reminder that the people that made this game, they put that in there because they want you to enjoy it. They they thought that you would enjoy it. Um, and I feel like with today's world where you have corporations and CEOs min-maxing the absolute shit out of everything, um, it's like, well, there's no time for this. Why are you putting it in there? We need to have this go through the approval process. We need to make sure it doesn't offend anyone. We need to make sure that the resources put into this isn't wasted. And chances are they probably tell, I guess, they probably tell the developers, yeah, it's a waste of resources. Or you know what? You need to focus on this first. And maybe after, this is taken care of, maybe we'll consider doing that. Or this hasn't gone through HR's approval process or whatever it may be. And so it feels like like the quote unquote soul of like video games, because video games are an art form, in my perspective. It's an interactable art form, and what's nice is when you can kind of feel the slight imperfections with things, or the again like the spontaneous, like again the giant chicken thing in like Gears of War. Like it's a gritty fucking video game series, and yet you can absolutely just spawn a giant chicken on this ship, for some reason. Um, it's nice to have that like personality that comes from the devs, or again like the Call of Duty, the ray gun thing. Like that's like really cool and really neat, right? When you hear about it from a friend who read it in like a game strategy manual, right? Back in the day. And then you follow it, and then you tell other people, and it's very much like and then later on it becomes something that everyone fondly looks back on, and it's like, yeah, remember that? Oh yeah, that was cool. And we don't have that anymore because I feel like there's so much bureaucracy and like again the min maxing from like uh, CEOs about cost and and the where the efforts are. I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, I also like when Easter eggs, like when a developer puts an Easter egg into a game, but then it becomes so popular that they keep on sprinkling it into their other games. Like the one that comes to mind is Saints Row, and they've got that massive fuck off bunny, the purple bunny that just comes out of nowhere occasionally in the game, so that you've got to like do a series of sequences to be able to activate. Um, the fact that just keeps on reappearing and recurring in the games, it's like I think that's really neat, because then it's like, oh, that started off as a one-off thing, but now it's got like a bit more of a legacy to it as well.
Yeah, the cow stuff from Diablo, if I remember correctly.
Diablo, yeah, that's another.
All of these are dumb, but they're silly, and it's at least anytime I've heard other people talk about it, or whenever I think about it, I look back on it very fondly. It doesn't ruin my experience, and in fact, it helps remind me more of the fact that the people that made this game really love the game. In fact, they thought that you might enjoy this silliness in it.
That's kind of my point, right? Is that sorry, it shows a level of creativity and a level of fun, even if developers are under a certain level of crunch, and we're just tired as fuck. It showcases that, like, not doing this sterile, everything has to go through these certain people type of development, where it's just like, I've got a level that if you can no-clip to it, or I've got a big box under the level, if you can no-clip to it, you can play, like this rip-off version of Tic-Tac-Toe, or like, Connect 4.
Even some shit games like Shrek Extra Large for the original Xbox, there was an Easter egg just discovered in that game recently where if you're on the GameCube version of the game, if you upgrade the fart power or the burp power, whatever he's got, to like the max level, and you can use it with a bug in the game that like clips you out of bounds, it'll actually throw you out of bounds, but then it'll reload you inside the GameCube console itself. And it's its own, like, there's nothing there. It's purely just to look around. But it's like, even a game this shit had a program in where if you go out of bounds, it like safe locks you to the to like inside of a Nintendo GameCube.
Yeah, it's weird to me that we've lost that. We haven't lost it. It's more relegated to smaller games.
Relegated to the indies, and the same thing that I told my Xbox friends about this. Look to the indies for look to the indies and your double A's for I think the stuff that you want out of gaming. You'll still probably have some of that stuff come from some triple A's. It's just not going to be as much as what it used to be. And it feels like it's less and less over time because of this obsessiveness of counting their dimes and quarters and making sure that there is no waste, even though there's a ton of waste that I feel like goes into like marketing for AAA stuff. But
if there's any AAA developers listening, add random shit to your games for me, please.
Yeah, that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
Just add more random shit. I might go actually before we move on. There's a YouTube channel that I watch that I absolutely adore. He doesn't upload too frequently. Well, I think he maybe uploads like once a month, once every 2 months. Called Odd Header, and he covers like kind of more obscure video game Easter eggs that aren't really covered too much, and even looks into Easter eggs that have been discovered in the code, but people don't quite know how to access, so then almost gets people going like a literal Easter egg hunt where it's like, here's the breadcrumbs that we found, everyone go and see what you can find with this, and see how you can activate this, which I think is really, really cool. And his videos, he puts these like list formatted videos together, so you like get a lot of information in these one, like the videos are only like 15 minutes long as well. Really, really interesting. So if you both, and if any of the listeners are keen to watch some more and find out some more about some more obscure Easter eggs and some games they might have played, Odd Header I definitely recommend.
There's, I think he's named another YouTuber, and I think this is kind of another part of where my thought process came from, called, I think he's Captain Excellent. And he used to do Easter egg videos, and now he just does like, oh look, in the new Call of Duty, if you knife a chair, a foldable chair, it folds closed. It's like, that's not an Easter egg. That's a really cool quality, like, not quality of life thing. It's a really cool like detail, but it's not an Easter egg. It doesn't mean anything to me. If I shoot the chairs and they fold up or they don't fold up, it's like, cool. But if I shoot a teddy bear and it turns into, like, a really good example is Modern Warfare 2019 had a mission where if you did a bunch of stuff, Santa Claus would spawn in the sky. Stuff like that. It's just like, that's cool. Where the fuck did all that go?
It's like Santa Claus spawning in the sky and a chair folding when you knife it. It's like there's no comparison there, is there? I used to watch Captain Excellent as well, but I did stop pretty much for the same reasons that you've just outlined there. His videos just slowly became more less Easter egg hunty and more just, he is a very minute detail that isn't even, in my opinion, particularly interesting, to be honest. No disrespect to him, but I also think it's because his upload frequency is more frequent than a lot of other Easter egg YouTube channels that I've found. So I think, and he covers a lot in one video. He'll cover like 10 or 12 Easter eggs in one video, and he uploads like twice a week or something like that. So I think he might be struggling in terms of some material when he's going through that many all at once. But yes, thank you, Ratchet. Thank you for that. And do let us know what you think about that in the comments. You might get featured on a comment comeback section next week if we decide to revisit this topic. But moving on. So, brand new Sentinels of the Store article came out this week, written by the one and only SirViolentDeath. SirViolentDeath did a retrospective opinion editorial piece about Steam after Steam Greenlight, what has changed, what impact Steam Direct had on the store. It's been years since Steam shut down Steam Greenlight, but Steam Direct it's fixed some things, and it's kind of with the changes that they brought in, it's introduced maybe some other problems as well. But SVD, I'm happy for you to take over and just give a quick briefing about your article, your thoughts, and what you're wanting to discuss.
All right. So I think it's important to note the Valve's like intentions with anytime that they go to introduce something, and then the unintended side effects from this, especially in what I feel is today's min-max world, if that makes any sense, where people are always trying to, minimize costs in everything, games. I mean, and I'm not just talking about like finances, but like in like every game that they go to play, it's always min-maxing their time, their effort, and it's not just about fun anymore. Um, and Valve will introduce new systems. Think about like all the sale like games, quote unquote, that they had, like the summer sale, like like game stuff that they had, the spring sale stuff where what was it? There was like the four teams, right? That was something that they had for some of their major sales, and then they eventually stopped doing that because they realized that people were doing whatever they could to game the system because like the prizes at the end was like I think like maybe a free Steam game or something like that. That was like maybe $20 or anyways. And so when Valve started Steam Greenlight, the idea was that like okay, people want other games than what we have, right? There's games out there that we don't really know what the public wants, so we'll let them vote on it, and we'll let people that want to have their game on there, and people will vote on it, and that's pretty straightforward. Good idea. Sounds great on paper. Um, and then they also I think even prior to that they had introduced Steam trading cards. And the idea with that is if you really love a game, right? Then when you play the game, it'll drop these trading cards, and when you have like a complete collection of these cards, you can then craft them into a badge for the game that will have its own unique kind of look to it. You'll get like some coupons, some like Steam profile backgrounds and emoticons, that are relevant to the game whose badge you crafted. And there would be like 5 levels. And the whole thing with this is that if people wanted to, that they were missing cards, they could either trade with one another, or they could sell it on the market. However, Valve would take a cut, but the developers would take a cut. And it was again, it was meant to be fun, but people found a way to essentially come up with a money making scheme out of it. And that seems to be the case with a lot of the stuff where Valve will try to introduce something that sounds great on paper, and if no one really thought outside the box and just played with like the kind of the agreed upon like rules, kind of like think about like two people in a duel, right? There no cheap shots. It's all about sword technique, right? And that's like these for lack of a better term, these assholes were like, wait, there's no rule that specifically says I can't throw sand in my opponent's eye, right? Or that I can't, kick them in the crotch. And that's kind of what was starting to happen, where you had these people that started farming trading cards with massive bot groups. And then on top of that, they realized that because all these like Steam keys being on sale at various places, plus the developers, and then they started making deals with developers if that they got their game passed on Greenlight that they would give them Steam keys. So it was then a keys for votes thing. Hey, we'll use our bot accounts to mass upvote your stuff on Greenlight. Once that's through, you give us Steam keys. If you don't, we'll like we'll give you negative reviews or report you to Valve or whatever. So then it kind of turned into like this mafioso extortion scheme, which was so bad to the point where like you had all these giveaway groups that popped up from all these Steam keys that they ended up getting and giving out, and people just joined the groups just to have a chance at the Steam key raffles, right? They didn't actually participate really in upvoting or downvoting. That was all done with bots. But it gives the impression, right, if you're a developer, indie developer, and you don't know any better, that these groups suddenly have this power because they have, 3,500, or they have 350,000 members of a group, and those are people supposedly all active and will look at your game when that's not the case. And again, it was so bad that one of the giveaway groups, which I'll name because it's been years at this point and loads have come out since then. The I believe Sal Strange of or no, not Sal Strange. Let me actually pull up the thing here. But point being is that one of the lead members of the giveaway of one of these huge giveaway groups was trying to extort the producer of Subnautica into giving them Steam keys. Like, that's insane. Like Subnautica is very popular, and I think even prior, I think when it, because I believe Subnautica was on Steam Greenlight. I think that was the game. Um, like it looked very good. It looked very like professionally like indie done. Um, and you're going to try to extort these people who I don't know the history of the Subnautica devs. Maybe Ratchet might know just by chance. I don't know. I'm guessing that maybe they were like experienced like AAA devs that started their own studio, which in which case like you're going to try to extort those people who like good luck. Um, and Valve, no, I'm sure Valve received tons of complaints from developers complaining about these extortion attempts. And Valve realized that they had to do something about it. The trading card farming was getting out of control. The other thing too that I mentioned here is the Steam gifting stuff, which again, great idea. I want to buy let's say Ratchet wants to buy me Battlefield 6, right? I'm sure he does. Well, just kidding. No, um, that's true. He didn't. Uh, although maybe the coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Um, so let's say he wants to buy me Battlefield 6, right? And what in the old system he could essentially buy like a Steam like inventory gift form of the game, and it would come into my inventory, and then from there I could either accept it or deny it. And if I denied it, it would then just go back into his Steam inventory, and he could give it to someone else. I think he might be able to get a refund with it. Or no, no, this was prior. This was before the Steam refund system. And so he could then keep it in his inventory, and he could give it to someone else. What you had is when you had some games go on sale, you had these people just buying tons of certain copies and gift copies. And then what they could do, and what still even happens now, and proof of this is if you wanted to buy Wolfenstein 2009 or Prey 2006, because those are two games that are no longer available to be bought directly on Steam. The only way to get it is to go through like these gray market sites, and they don't give you a Steam key for it. They give you a Steam gift item of the game. So once you pay them, what happens is that you will then receive a Steam gift, request or invite, right? So and so's, gifting you the Steam game, and so people were able to literally run essentially stores out of their Steam profiles on Steam, which is like going into the grocery store and buying all the avocados that are on sale and then setting up shop in the parking lot selling the avocados of that grocery store that you bought it from. Like it's quite insulting. Like EA would never allow this, neither would Ubisoft. If you were somehow selling Ubisoft games on Ubisoft's like Uplay forums, that would be shut down real quick. Um, so Valve had to do something to make changes. Unfortunately, that meant that all the benefits that we got from like the gifting system and trading cards and as well as like the benefits of having a walled garden for some people, uh, that had to be changed. In order to take power away from these people, you had to make it not profitable for them. So how do you make it not profitable for trading cards? Well, you make sure, and Grand Valve already started to do this to help limit with spamming, but you introduce limited accounts. Although there was a workaround for the limited accounts where if you paid a ruble and you were in Russia, that was a way to get around it. They then changed that to make sure it was $5 U.S. equivalent. Although, and this is one thing that I needed to clarify, and I made the changes in the article. So you have to pay $5 in order to make your account not limited. Then every year afterwards, you have to make a Steam purchase, like directly on Steam. There is no limit for that.
So it's $5 in your first year, and then it's any one Steam game after that.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, but the Steam game can't be a gift. Not like you can't be receiving a gift, I should say. And it has to be like with your wallet funds, but it cannot be with proceeds. It doesn't count with proceeds from market transactions, if that makes sense.
Yes, so it can't be with funds that you've made from selling items on the community marketplace.
Now, the real question that I don't know is if, let's say, you spend $10 your first year, in the second year, if you spend $1 for the purchase, would that still count? That's the only thing I don't know.
What I'm more curious about is if you make an account and then in that first year you fail to spend $5, does that just mean the account is limited for the whole of its lifetime?
No, it stays limited until you spend that $5.
Ah, right, okay, so it's almost like a two-step process where it's like, have they spent $5? Check. And then they move on to like a next tick box of have they made a purchase this year.
Legitimate purchase on the Steam store within the 300
within 12 months.
Yeah, within 12 months, right? Because I may or may not have an alt account in which it's not limited account status, but I can't make any marketplace transactions on it because it hasn't had a purchase on it in over a year.
There was a few things in the article that you wrote, and it just before we came on here, I ended up coming across some of the older articles I wrote for Tech Raptor, and one of them was a retrospective on Steam, a bit similar to what you've wrote actually, but that was written back in 2018, so that was by itself 7 years ago. So it's obviously very outdated now anyway, but I did include some interviews with some indie developers about how they'd perceived more. It was more specifically on the transition between Steam Greenlight to Steam Direct, and how a larger volume of titles releasing had influenced their game sales, if it had hindered them or if it had helped them in terms of accessibility, being able to just put your games on the storefront. For anyone that's maybe a bit out of the loop, Steam Greenlight was a system it was introduced in about 2012, which was basically
it was
Steam's answer. It could have been 2013, it might have been 2012. Ratchet, do you know? Do you want to place bets on the answer?
What was this for? Sorry? I zoned out for a minute.
Paying attention. When Steam Greenlight got introduced?
That is a very good question. I would say 2013.
Incorrect. It was 2012. Steam Greenlight was launched on August 30th, 2012.
I thought it was 2013. I could have swore it was 2013.
No, it got more. It had some limited uploads in 2012 just because it was a newer system. I think it got popularized in 2013.
Was it maybe in beta in 2012 and then like?
No, I've looked it up on Google. Launch date August 20th, 2012.
All right, fair enough.
So Steam Greenlight was a system, 2012 launched. The idea was it was an easier means for indie developers to get their games on Steam, because it used to be very a gatekeeping exercise where Steam, you would have to go through a vigorous application process, only for a high chance of Steam to just be like, no, we're not going to ship your game. So instead, they put the power in the community's hands, where indie developers could pay a one-off $100 fee and they could upload as many games as they wanted to Steam Greenlight. And what they would upload is a trailer and at least 4 screenshots and a description of their game, and the community would vote on what games they would want to see be sold on Steam. So they could either vote, yes, I want to see this game on Steam, or no, thanks, I'm not interested. And once the games hit past a certain threshold, again, like a lot of Steam systems, it's not too easy to predict it, but it was influenced by obviously how many upvotes it had, how it was placed in comparison to other games that were on Steam Greenlight, and the general traction that the page was getting as well. Then Steam would send an invite to the developer, say, hey, your game's past the threshold, you can launch your game on Steam now. That got replaced with Steam Direct in 2017, and it's, like it says on the tin, it was a more direct method for developers to upload their games to Steam. So instead of putting it up to Steam Greenlight and say a developer's made this game, blood, sweat and tears has gone into it, and only for it to be rejected by the community, and then suddenly they can't ship to Steam. The Steam Direct feature did away with the community voting system, and they also refined their one-off $100 fee to a $100 fee per title. And the catch was, even though it's now a per title fee, you can now, instead of putting it up to Steam Greenlight, you just put your game on Steam. So it was a direct way of just putting your game out to your audience.
And that $100 fee was recoupable if you made X amount of sales. So the idea was that if you made X amount of sales, you could then take that same $100 that you spent for your first title and use that then for the next app ID slot.
Yeah. That move in particular, because I know your article obviously goes into a lot more areas such as the Steam gifting system, Steam key generation limits, profile limitations, all that sort of stuff. But the topic of Steam Greenlight, the Steam Direct, came back into my mind, and I know it was something that you were suggesting I do a little bit of a retrospective on myself, particularly because I did an article talking about the Steam Direct fee, and we also discussed about that either last episode or 2 episodes ago, about if the fee was too high, or if it was too low, or if that was a barrier to entry, that we discussed from Kath's article. But I'm curious from both of you if you think ultimately was killing off Steam Greenlight the best way to go, or do you think that Steam Direct has brought in more issues, because it's hard to judge it, I guess, because a lot of these changes have been brought in recently because of the Steam Direct system and because it's easier to get games on Steam. Do you think if we kept with the Steam Greenlight system that we would still see these problems, such as, like, you know, malware, and just anybody being able to upload a game on all the caveats that brings? Would we still be in the same position we're in? Or do you think it's still a net positive that we've got this Steam Direct system?
I think it's a net positive because it killed off the power that of people that were able to take, like, what seemed to be a pseudo gatekeeper position. So even if let's say somehow the giveaway groups were taken out of the equation, the other issue that you would have is with publishers, right? You sign on with these publishers and they'll get you past the gate, essentially, right? And then
just for context, so there was a feature through Steam Greenlight where if you were an indie developer, you could go through a publisher route, and you would effectively, if you was a big publisher, then you have the potential of just skipping through the Steam Greenlight system. Or you had some publishers like Back to Basics Gaming that took on quite a few developers and mass posted their games to Steam Greenlight. That basically meant that Back to Basics had a Steam Greenlight fee paid, so they could just upload as many games as they wanted. But then the catch was that Back to Basics had to publish your game when it came out onto Steam. Sorry, that's the context given before you continue.
Yeah, so these publishers could essentially play the role of a coyote, which is the slang term for people that would get um, people across the U.S. border from Mexico. Um, and the thing is with that is that it still puts developers at a disadvantage because now like like you can try to hope that your stuff gets greenlit, or there's pressure from these publishers that may be trying to they'll extort you, saying like, listen, you really want to get that game that you put all this work into. I'm your best shot. Come on, it'll cost you, but at least you'll get through. Um, versus now, right? Whereas the only thing that let's say bad actor publishers can try to do is proclaim that they'll help with marketing, right? Which at that point that is more about a person's due diligence on whether or not they've researched this publisher, on whether or not they want to go with them, or whether or not they think that their stuff is BS. Versus that publisher also having a leg up saying, I can also help get your game through Steam, right? And skip the Greenlight process, which has a lot more power and pull than the I can do marketing for you, right? Because if you think you can do the marketing, but you can't, but you don't know if you can get through the Greenlight process, that's different. I would be interested in hearing Ratchet's opinion on because I'm sure Ratchet has heard horror stories and read and listened to horror stories from fellow devs who have dealt with publishers who have essentially acted like these like extortionists or bullies, or if you want to get to the storefront, we're your only way there.
I haven't interacted with anyone who has dealt with bullies because they don't give them the time of day. A lot of people I interact with in the kind of sphere that I'm in is they interact with proper publishers. They don't interact with the bullshit on Steam. Even for the game that I helped work on a couple of years ago, that VR game, we didn't have people coming to us and try to bully us into it, even though they were on Greenlight for a little while. Yeah, Greenlight's a weird thing for me, right? Because what Mellow was saying originally, like the question he posed, I think Greenlight initially was a fantastic idea, but as Valve do, because it's such a they're not fragmented, but they allow you to do what you want to do for the most part, as long as it doesn't, cause a huge money sink, as far as I'm aware. They allow you to go off and do what you think would work well for the company and that you think would be good. And that has led to some fantastic things, like Dota 2. But then at the other point, this is where I kind of wrap back around to the discussion about Greenlight, is that it had the same problem that Dota 2 currently has, which Dota 2 has been stuck in like Season 5 for the past couple of years, because as far as I'm aware, no one at Valve's working on it, because they're working on CS2 or whatever other game they're working on at the moment. And that's what happened with Greenlight, is it stagnated because the original idea was like Valve would approve 10 to 15 games or however many percentage of games every month, and that was cool. And then by the end, it literally didn't matter. I think they were still looking at games and rejecting shitty games, but for the most part, yeah, it turned into a thing where there was a community of people who would say, pay us money, otherwise we're going to downvote your game. And then I think we learned that Valve were like, yeah, downvotes don't matter, so don't pay these people any money. We don't, like, downvotes don't mean anything. They're not weighted. It's only upvotes that are weighted. Which I don't even think they said that. Yeah.
But even so, like, if you're an amateur indie dev and you don't know any better, you may feel compelled to, you may actually fall for the intimidation tactic. like I'm glad that you and the people that you interactive with are, that they, if this was ever tried on them, they'd be like, yeah, fuck off. I'm sorry if we're if I'm going over a swear quota.
No, 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 no. There's no swear limits. I think it's only in the first 5 minutes we try and avoid it, but then after that,
Okay.
it's fair game.
But which is good. But I can see a lot of devs that yeah, especially amateur ones that may not know any better because they're so focused on, let's say, the game itself that on making the game itself that they don't really know any other aspects outside of the game, like marketing and social stuff and networking, in order to help push the game.
I think that's the big thing, especially that you touch on. It's especially when you get like a one-man team kind of thing. You typically, and I'm sorry for the stereotype, Ratchet, but from what I've encountered, you get people that know a lot about programming, know a lot about coding, know how to make a game, but then they're shit with marketing and they're shit with networking with people, and they don't have any connections to people that they can reach promo deals with. They don't have any press PR contacts either. So if there was a group of people that were contacting one email saying, hey, I can write a post on my Steam group with 100,000 members for $50, then I can see why that might seem appealing on the surface, but then you realise, oh no, this group is just full of bots, but their numbers on the surface look very impressive.
I've got a few things to say, which is 100% you're right. Most of the people who are developers I know don't have a marketing background, and marketing is a specific beast. Our team worked with a marketing team for a little while in the early days just to kind of get ourselves grounded and get kind of familiarity with the other games around us in the space that we're working in, which is fantastic. I'm not going to shout them out because we're going to be working with them again, and I want them all to myself. Fuck you, go indie, go market your indie game elsewhere. Nah. Yeah, I guess you'll find out when we release who we worked with, but they were really fantastic. But the thing is, yeah, it's really hard to market a game, especially when you don't have a marketing background, because it's really hard to figure out what you want, how to get in front of people. This leads into other parts of Steam, especially Greenlight issues with exploitation. Was like people being like, give us keys and we'll put it on this other thing, or we'll downvote your game, like stuff like that. And I do definitely agree that the biggest target of that was newer solo indie developers, either just out of university into basically university that didn't understand what Greenlight or what Steam Direct or whatever system was or is, and so they had there's no padding going into it, right? It's like the same thing when you if you work on a game that ends up being a massive game, if you get if you get a publishing deal from a company, being your first big game, you're not going to understand what a good deal is and what a bad deal is. So you can go in and, Devolver can be like, we'll take 15% of your income, but we'll give you $3 million across 2 years to make the game. And that's like, okay, that's a good deal. But then there'll be like some skeevy company be like, yeah, we'll give you $10 million, but we take 80% of the profits for the first 5 years and we own the IP. It's like, that's a fucking horrible deal. But then you don't have the experience, so you're just like, that sounds good. 10 million's a lot of money. And then either they don't deliver the money, but they still, because they kind of kept their side of the deal, you can't really do anything about it. You can't afford a lawyer or anything, and they can because they've got you $10 million. It's just stuff like that. I don't think that happens too often anymore. I'd be interested to know if it does, but yeah, it's a thing where, because of inexperience, people get themselves caught up in these horrible situations, and I think that was a key thing with Greenlight as well. People would get caught up, they'd have their keys, they would have to give keys to people, so they would give a ton of keys out, and then you go onto like those two specific sites I'm not going to mention because they can get fucked, that we all are thinking right now, the key resellers, go onto those two key sites and get keys for like cents, when the game is like $15 on Steam and somebody spent 3 years of their life on it. And, because they made a shitty decision with some scammer, some grifter, their game is now worth 10 cents on those two sites. It's inexperience, really, is what I'm saying. In the long
Yeah.
run.
A few years ago, not even a few years ago, essentially almost 10. I had found some old Reddit posts from the developer of uh, Throne of Lies, which is essentially it's like Secret Hitler. It's Town of Salem. It's that political, you know, the who done it kind of thing. And he had talked about all his experiences with marketing, with really everything around the marketing and pushing out the game, and with mid mortems, post mortems, post mortems, and one of the things that was interesting too was when looking at marketing for the game, like what I saw was, at least to me, it seemed like mostly good advice about ignoring, you BS PR marketing agencies, and absolutely avoiding the Greenlight boosters, and in which I put in chat here is the fact that you had the person that was in charge of the Rex network, apparently, allegedly, seemingly may have downvoted this person after this person either ignored or rejected their offer, which was very similar to, I think, what was it, the OG? I think it was the original giveaway network or the Lit network or the Boss network, whoever that did the same thing with the Subnautica producer. Um, and I mean, when it gets to be that bad, and like Subnautica, like everyone views that as like a very classic, wonderful indie title, right? The idea that you had someone try to extort them, Valve's gonna be like, yeah, no, if it's gonna be this bad with this whole voting thing, we might as well just remove the buried entry, and we'll just have to unfortunately look at the stuff one by one on whether or not to approve it, right? Because some stuff never saw the light of day. Point being is that while we have stories like the Subnautica developer and the Therno Lives developer of rejecting these people, there's probably a few stories of these people unfortunately accepting and then regretting their decisions that they got into bed with people that they didn't realize all it was this giveaway group with a lot of bots as members, and that they really didn't have much power because these people were tricked, and maybe they didn't know much about Steam or the ecosystem, and thought that, oh, a group that has 500k members, yeah, I'm sure those people are active, right? When in reality that's not the case. So Valve does what Valve felt was best, which is to take away any power that these bad actors may have had. Which best way to do that is to get rid of the buried entry, which means that these bad actors have less power to do so. Now the only thing that these bad actors can try to do, in a similar sense, is claim that they can market your game, but that's the same. It's the same thing that anyone can claim to do at that point, and so there's not as much pull towards that, is what I'm saying, versus a buried entry kind of deal. And then when you take a look at everything else, Valve was really trying to hit the profitability of everyone, of all these bad actors, the Steam gifting stuff to make sure that people can stockpile, as well as the Steam key generation. That's something else I haven't addressed yet in this podcast yet, is the Steam key generation, which has, and we'll say that we had this unofficially, but there is a quote that I will say, from someone that we may or may not know, who threw a bit of a hissy fit in the Steam dev forums when he wanted to generate more keys than he was allowed to, and Valve told him that his sales didn't seem to match the proportion of Steam key generations that he had already done at this point, and he was throwing a hissy fit saying, "But a contract is a contract." Claiming that the contract, whatever contract when that you signed with Valve as an indie developer, I guess according to this guy, he thinks that like that meant that whatever the original terms were in terms of whatever it said in the contract for key generations and everything, that was not subject to change. Although I very much doubt that. I very much think that, again, as long as you're doing business with Valve, there's quite a few things that are probably subject to change. Maybe not everything, but like key generations absolutely are something that's going to be subject to change.
The fact that basically how they treat it is if you continue to do business on Steam, while they've enacted a change, they take that as you have agreed to continue to take part in this. You've agreed to continue the business
Yeah, it's a
relationship.
I think the technical term's like an implicit agreement. Um, but anyways, and the thing is that like you had, and there's still I won't give the site name, but there's still like a site where you can see a few of the few remaining like at least semi popular or notable Lex shops or Steam key shops that like sell in Russian rubles for some stuff. But a lot of them have died down. Um, because and granted, some of it's so buried. A few of these Lex shop links are so much buried in my bookmarks. And as well as I think I had proof of, or screenshots of some of them, and I think I lost the files like years ago. But a lot of them are no longer active. I think last time I checked on those links about 5 years ago, which was essentially 2-3 years from the changes to Greenlight. Um, and what else have I not talked about here? Right. So the Steam Key Generations limited accounts, barrier. Right. So the last thing, which is the profile customization stuff. So like the thing is that like these bad actors would do also for profit is doing like these like Steam level up systems, and you trade in like TF2 keys or money, and you get like you know uh, all these cards and whatnot to level up your profile. People want to do that because our vanity is essentially one of our true weaknesses as Steam users. We all want cool looking profiles, or at least I do. Um, and so Valve's like, okay. And the thing is that these bad actors had come up with another way of making money, which is to make essentially bullshit games, but the key selling point would be the achievements in terms of how they looked, and you could take those achievements and display them on your profile, so you could like spell out your name, or it would have community market items where you could have like meme stuff on there, like the Illuminati on like the dollar bill kind of symbol. Valve saw this and like, well, yeah, no, we're not going to even allow you to do that until you prove that your game is a legitimate game, right? It passes this confidence metric that we've also imposed. So not only do you have to worry about the Steam trading card metric that was introduced, but now this confidence metric too for whether or not your game can have Steam achievements. Though your game can still have community market items, which that I still think is a little bull. But they introduced the Valve introduced the Steam Points shop, so which yeah helps encourage people continue to spend their purchases on Steam, and that they get these Steam points. For every dollar that you spend, you get like 100 Steam points, and then you can use that on games that you own, like their Steam Point shop, to customize your profile. That includes all the stuff that you would normally get from trading card packs, which is another thing that they kind of did to help even devalue trading cards even more so, which is like, hey, you own hey, you own Terraria and you don't have like all the cards, but you want like the profile background or the emoticons, you can just use your Steam points to buy it directly. Um, and this was something that Valve benefits, right, as a side thing of, it helps encourage people still to keep spending money directly on Steam, but now they help kind of decentivize people from using like from any other methods of obtaining um, Steam customizable stuff for their profile. All in all, I think all the changes that they've made, I think are positive. I think it's great. Like, we don't know what things would have been like had they kept things the same. But considering the state of Greenlight towards the end, I think it would have gotten worse. Um, and so I think uh, and I think that with the way it is now, they've done pretty good job at essentially eliminating the ways for bad actors to make money. There's still a few ways that they can, and we'll address that in the future. But for the most part, I think they did a good job in tackling all the major issues.
Yeah, I think it's important to contextualize the problems that we were seeing at the end of Steam Greenlight were quite significant, and I know that there's obviously still a lot of significant problems with the current system and how it works. And I think you're right. The problems that we had at Steam Greenlight, they clogged them up quite well. Also, I agree with you on that by just totally throwing the system out the door. I was skeptical at first, I'll admit. I mean, I even did a full post about me saying why I didn't think Steam Direct was really going to be the answer for this. But I'm happy to have been proven wrong somewhat. But it has also led to problems in and of itself. I mean, you don't need to look further than the podcast episodes we've done talking about how it's easier now for malware to just come up onto Steam with no vetting process. Well, I say no vetting process, there is a vetting process, but it's proven to be quite inefficient. Ratchet, do you have any closing thoughts about that as well?
I don't know, we've covered a lot of stuff.
Do you think all the changes that like Valve has done with like gifting, trading cards, Steam Direct, the Steam key generation stuff, do you think all of that has been effective in essentially deterring or at least making it harder for bad actors to continue to at least be profitable?
Yeah, this is something I said the other week where it's fully a case of Steam having to actively fight them. It's never a case of being able to chill. But yeah, I think the moves they've made, as much as those moves annoy me, I think they're good moves in the long run to make Steam a reasonable place to be able to both play and buy and sell games. I hate that stuff like my inventory can't be used to hold games I bought on sale to give to my friends anymore. I hate that I can't put, I can't make cards for a game I've worked on and put cards out to the community. There's a lot of stuff I don't like, but none of that's Valve's fault. It's all the fault of these people who are just abusing shit out of the system and are the reason we can't have nice things. Yeah. I think my kind of closing thought is it's unfortunate that we can't have nice things. It annoys the shit out of me.
I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's valid, and I think we can all get behind that as well. But now I will pass the microphone over to our viewers. What do you think about anything that we've talked about today? What are your thoughts about disclosure notices, about always online connections, DRM, and the lack of presence of single player modes and exclusively multiplayer access on game store pages? What are your thoughts about Easter eggs and little extra tiny details in games slowly fading away? Is it stuff that you want to see more of? Is there any particular memories that you have about these moments in games that you want to share? And also, what are your thoughts about the state of Steam after Greenlight? Have things improved? Have things worsened? What are your thoughts, and how has these things impacted you? Leave a comment. Either here on YouTube, on Steam, or anywhere on our social medias, and we might highlight it next week for a comment comeback section. Please be sure to like this video, it helps us in the algorithm, and also subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to see more of these. Please do be sure to follow us on Steam, X, Discord, and Blue Sky. Both me and SVD are on Blue Sky. You can join our Sentinels of the Store group on Steam. Follow our curator as well. I am on X, and we also have a Discord server where you can come and chat to our community. Special shout out as well goes to our patrons over on Patreon. You can find a link for that down below in our link tree as well. But one final time, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed yourself as much as possible.
Shout out to Steam Gifts for allowing my post on there too as well. Unlike r/Steam.
Yes, thank you, Steam Gifts. We love you as always. And until next week, take care.